Richfield School District Planning Committee meeting. It is 5:31 p.m. I'd like to call this order to meeting. This meeting to order. We will begin with roll call in alphabetical order. Don Davenport.
Here.
Mark Ducey.
Aye.
Sean Kennedy.
Aye.
And myself, Michelle Boudreau, here. If you please stand. Don will lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we begin, I would just like to make a quick note. If we could all speak a little bit louder and a little bit more clear this evening, just because the notes will be taken from the video, as Mary is not here this evening, so just for her. So thank you.
Just a quick point of order, don't we do a reorganization of the committee at the first meeting? I saw it wasn't on the agenda.
Oh yeah, we did last year, yeah. It's not on the agenda, but yeah, we can do that for next time.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we are going to continue with the regional agreement discussion. Mark, do you want a quick recap, or do you feel that you are?
A recap, I think would be good. It's been a while since I've looked at it.
Yeah, the
So
original
the-
one was signed by you.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I understand that, but I don't know what the changes are.
yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
I'm sorry.
so the document that you're looking at right now reflects the responses that we got from DESI when we told them that we might be interested in changing the regional agreement. One of the things that we learned in the process, although I think we knew that, but we certainly got it confirmed to a great extent, is that a district is not able to make just limited changes to a regional agreement. Anytime a regional agreement is changed, it has to go through a complete legal review from top to bottom, because regulations change, law changes, etc. And one of the signatories is the commissioner. And so what you see in the margins are the comments that we received from the state when we asked them for their legal review of what would be required changes to the agreement. So some of this is substantive. None of this has to do really with the substance of what the planning committee has been discussing. These are more or less the required changes that would have to be made for any kind of change to the agreement.
And has our attorney reviewed this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there are other versions of this, but I just felt that this, for someone coming in, might be a good one to see, because
Right.
it takes you back sort of to the beginning.
And Mark, there are certain things like, do we want to change it to be middle school through 12, you know, or do we want to do a grade 5 through 12, or do we want to do a K through 12? You know, do we want to make those changes and such like that, or whatever? I don't really think decisions have been made on that. Any decisions, right, Michelle, that we make here goes as recommendations to the school committee, and then the final changes are made from the school committee.
And both towns have to agree, as is the commissioner. So again, we can't go in and say, you know what, let's make some small adjustments now and we'll revisit that. They will not allow that. They will not approve that. As a commissioner, will not approve that.
Okay. Some of the changes are, I think, not impactful to the town.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think those are the real questions. I think the real questions are what's impactful to the town. And those are the questions that you're gonna have to, for lack of a better term, sell to the town. So I'm interested in hearing what you guys are suggesting. I mean, I've tracked it, but I haven't tracked it that closely, so I'm not sure where it all stands. I mean, there's no recommendation in front of the school committee now? Or there's not any?
We have not come forward with a recommendation. We did last year. We didn't, but the school committee did not. He asked if the school committee had
We made
formally made a
recommendations,
recommendation.
the school committee did not act on any of those recommendations.
Correct. So the school committee is not active, but we came forward with a recommendation of, it was doing neighborhood schools for elementary, having grades 6 and 7 for both towns at Wilbraham Middle, and then having 8 through 12 here at Minnetonka.
I remember that. So, are you trying to, there's certain problems in the district that need to be fixed. All stop, correct? Fair?
Yes.
And there's other problems that you would like to fix.
Mhm.
Is the goal to fix all of it or the needs? I think it's a really fundamental question. I'm sorry.
Do you have an answer, or, because what I would say is, yes, the ones that we have to change, we're going to change, but if there are some others that we could also include, depending on how they all match and how they fit in together. It's not like, you know, we can do this, this, and this, but if we do this, then we gotta try to do this, because this affects this. It's a lot of moving parts and strings when you pull it. If we address this issue, then we're gonna have to address this, this, and this, and this issue, kind of.
I think I think the more of a difficult decision you make for the towns,
Right,
the harder it is
Yeah.
to get acceptance. And so are you trying to fix what you need to fix, or are you trying to like really kind of reshape it to a level that you want to reshape it to? I think that's the question.
I think it's fixing the needs. However, designing a track for us to get to where we wanna go. However, we also, with whatever decision we make, we're not looking to create other problems with
No.
changes that we're making. So
Right.
we're being very careful with making sure that while we decide to, you know, take one step forward, that we're not, you know, causing other issues that will then create a bigger issue down the line. So I think we're trying to be cognizant of what we need to do, and also where we want to go.
I think, and I haven't obviously read through any of this. I think from the town's perspective, there's two, and I'll speak from Wilbraham's side, obviously. I think there's two primary concerns that I think off the top of my head, and I had a brief discussion with Nick about it today, and he didn't come up with any others. The first one I think we're gonna resolve in any format is the middle school, right? I mean, trying to fix this middle school problem we have with the overcrowding. And as part of that, the part that, Wilbraham is still responsible for the entire capital cost of the Wilbraham Middle School. And I think there's a degree of unfairness to that. And so we would, if it's gonna be a regionalized middle school, I think it's in there, that it is suggested that that be borne by the district and not just by Wilbraham Wilbraham, the town of Wilbraham. That's the first element. The second element, which we've talked about 100 times, if we've talked about it once, and I don't know if we're any closer to anyone. One of the biggest problems I think in the district right now, and it's not, let me say this, one of the biggest problems in both towns and the district is the funding mechanism. It's a real problem, and I think everybody's heard me, I don't wanna get on my soliloquy here, because I've talked about this 100 times. And I think it's not only a problem for Wilbraham, and it certainly is, but I would argue it's a problem for the town of Hamden and the district, because the funding is, the way it's being funded is difficult at best to fund it to a level you need to get there. And so, I don't know if that's addressed at all, and I'm not sure, I haven't looked at that. So those are the two really major pain points from a Wilbraham perspective, outside of the educational side of it and all that stuff.
By funding, do you mean the state funding or funding from the town?
The funding formula. I mean, what's happening is that Wilbraham's
split.
bearing, the split, what's happening, obviously, Don, is Wilbraham's bearing a larger portion of it. And it's in accordance with the agreement, and I'm not, but Wilbraham can't keep funding it at increased levels every year to levels the schools need. And so, it's gonna hurt everybody. I mean, it's just, it's a difficult scenario. I mean, that percentage has changed. We're closer to, are we close to 81% now? In
Yeah.
enrollment in Wilbraham?
Yeah.
And I mean, for every percent is a significant impact to Wilbraham, to a point where we just can't keep up. And so,
It's $500,000 for each point.
each point, so, yeah. And so,
Roughly.
it's a problem for everybody. And I don't look at it, I mean, it's an immediate problem for Wilbraham, but it's truly a problem for everybody, if you wanna keep your school levels, your school system at a high level. Now, assuming the funding, because that assumes you need certain funding. I don't know if there's other, we've talked about this 100 times, I don't know if we've ever come up with an idea of what other ways could we do this, other than rolling averages.
We actually came up with, but there's a trick to it. Michelle, just make sure I'm on track with this, right? And Dawn. So if we say, okay, listen, we're gonna do a rolling 5-year average or 3-year average, whatever the number was. Was it 5 or 3?
We're looking at 3. but
3,
It
okay.
could be 5.
Rolling 3-year average, right? And then we're gonna say, we're gonna use that as the mechanism.
Yeah.
The only problem with that is each town has to vote each year that is the way that we're gonna do the assessment this year.
Oh,
And they both have to agree on it.
you can't do that as part of the regional agreement?
Nope. Or at least we were
And-
told
and
no.
Here's, Jay, answer that question
Yeah.
directly. You
Okay.
can put an alternate method into your regional agreement,
Right,
but it has to pass a majority of towns,
right.
or it defaults to the statutory method, which is the method that's in the agreement.
We can't say we just want this agreement. We don't wanna do the one we're doing.
And that
We
doesn't
wanna do-
fundamentally fix the issue
doesn't
where
at all.
Wilbraham's bearing a large
Right.
burden. It slows down the change,
Right,
but it doesn't fundamentally change it.
does not, yeah.
So again, I came in here not knowing where this was all at, I just wanted to make sure.
If you have
Wilbraham's
ideas,
perspective,
I
I
think we're
don't,
all
I mean,
ears, you know?
we've been talking about this for as long as
Right.
you can hear me talk, you can hear me talk about this. Cause it's not a new problem, and it's not getting any better,
Yeah.
so, I don't know.
And then the capital cost for Wilbraham Middle School, I believe, that was one of the proposals? Did we formally submit that proposal to the school committee about making Wilbraham Middle School a regional middle school, or was that something we just talked about?
I think it was just almost preliminary discussions,
Preliminary, okay.
I don't think the school committee did not.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, no, I know what happened. We asked the Wilbraham representative if is that something that would fly with Wilbraham, and we never got a response.
I'm pretty confident that would be acceptable to Wilbraham.
Okay, but there you go.
I shouldn't say definitively, I've not talked to anybody else, but I mean, I don't know why Wilbraham would object to that.
Okay. So it would be like Minnetonka Regional High School, and then it would be the regional middle school,
Yeah.
you know.
No, I think the better question is, would Hander be acceptable to that?
Probably not,
Yeah. I think,
but we can discuss it all we want. What we need to do is come up with a plan and put it before the voters and see what they say.
Right.
And what it is, then we go from there, right? I mean, if they say yes, it's fine, great. If they say no, okay, then we gotta do something different.
and one of my biggest concerns is that if you ask for too much at once,
Right,
you'll get rejected.
yes.
The more change you ask for, the more objection you're gonna have. So I think and that's kind of where I started, if you focus on what you truly need to make progress, you can take another bite at the apple, and I know you don't want to, but you can take another bite in the apple in 3 or 4 years or 5 years.
Actually, that's the issue. I think, and Michelle, tell me if I'm wrong or right on this, but I think that we only get one shot at taking a bite of the apple. And
Why?
And, well, it was because this agreement is not something that's supposed to be updated every couple of years. It's something that's supposed to be general enough that everything can work underneath it. And we were led to believe that if we say we're gonna do this, and then 2 years we're gonna do this, and then 2 years we're gonna do this, that DESI would be like, no.
You don't
It
tell-
has to be
you don't
approved
tell
through
them.
DESI.
I understand it does.
Yeah.
I mean, and when we changed it back in 2015, it was just a very small, minor change we made to it.
Right.
So apparently they've changed their MO, but to me, it's
Well, with the new commissioner, well.
To me, it's really,
he's not
to
the
me,
commissioner,
you gotta get some wins. I mean, you need some things to change, and the only way to get that done is, I think if you go and ask for too much, you're gonna upset everybody and you're not gonna get anywhere.
And we kind of were there at the end of, the end of the school year last year, so we had, a listening session. And just, even we were looking at the survey results and just hearing from, constituents from both towns and just some concerns that people brought up. And we understand that while that may not have been majority, we did hear what people had to say.
Are you
And
talking about that event you had at Minichog? Yeah, I went to that, yeah.
Yes. So one of the things, you know, there were a lot of concerns about, you know, reorganizing the district with neighborhood schools, and moving the, 8th grade to the high school, and that's, you know, a conversation about innovative pathways came up, which was a way to, one of the issues we're trying to address is overcrowding, but not just overcrowding at Wilbraham Middle School. I mean, we're looking at, there's overcrowding in 3 buildings in the district, and Wilbraham Middle School is very overcrowded, but so is Stony Hill, and so is Mile Tree. So, but by offering this innovative pathway program, it does alleviate some of the pressure and the overcrowding at Wilbraham Middle School and allow students to participate in this program at Minichog. So that was something that came out of that, where it's not, you know, it's hearing what people are saying and saying, you know, if you make too many changes all at once, then, you know, we potentially could fail, but this was a way and a path to be able to offer more opportunities for students. It would be a way that we're not forcing students or families to make that decision. It possibly could be something that they could elect to participate in. But it also does, you know, again, alleviate the pressure in that building.
What's the feedback been on that, or has it been much? Innovative pathways?
So in your packet, one of the things you have is a presentation that I'm going to be doing at the middle school. Their open house, I think, is October 8th or thereabouts. So part of that presentation is to get some feedback from them. Basically, the question that I'm going to be asking is, what level of interest would there be in advanced manufacturing, and what level of interest would there be in healthcare and social assistance? And once we hear from them, then I'll be able to answer that question.
So to really understand this, I believe you have to, like, what is innovative pathways? So when we first started discussing this, I saw it as like an academy, right? Where you would take some students, they would decide to join the academy would be at the high school, and then you would be part of this program through your whole high school experience. But I think what I've come to learn about it is it's not an academy, it's more of a educational plan and an educational offering. So it is a little bit of a square peg and round hole situation, right? That, you know, this could potentially work, but what we would be doing would be splitting the 8th grade of middle school, where some of them who were interested in this program, that is usually 9 through 12, we would make it an 8 through 12 program, and they would go to the high school to be a part of that program. And I think that there would be, hopefully, I mean, the people who I've talked to, it seems like parents are like, yeah, would that give my kid, you know, a leg up on healthcare or manufacturing or whatever? Okay, that's great. And I know a lot of parents like the idea of their students being an extra year at the high school because they feel for college purposes or something like that, their freshman year, which is when things start to count, they've already gotten over they've already been over the fears of, you know, oh, I'm in a new school, whatever. They have that whole year to kind of adjust and learn what the high school's like and understand things. Other people say, well, I want my kid to be king of the school in 8th grade. I think that's an important milestone for children. So I think that there will be some that will want to come up there and some that will want to stay there. But then what I'm afraid of is it's suddenly going to be well, I want my kid to stay at the middle school, but I also want them to be a part of this innovative pathway curriculum. It's more of a curriculum, correct?
I would think of it, probably the best analogy is a major. So it's a specific sequence of courses that you're taking as part of your high school experience. It leads to the high school diploma, regular college preparatory diploma. It has at least 2 courses that are in the field. It has at least 2 courses that are college level. So you're prepared either to go right into the world of work, or you're prepared to go to college. The there could be multiple entry points to that concern. You know, what would happen is, the later you get in, the more constricted your choices become. Like if
Right.
you start at 8th grade, then we have another year to fit those courses in, so you can take more electives. If you started at 9th grade, you'd probably be locked in. If you started in 10th grade, it might be too late. Might not be able to get the courses.
But it allows for those immediate experiences and college credit, because they give you the opportunity to obtain, for 2 college courses. So, and internship opportunities,
Yep.
you know, there's industry partners that, you know, the district would be partnering with. So it's similar in the high school when the students, the seniors are able to take, to have an internship or participate in that. So it offers additional experiences for students.
Oh, and it's a home run for the district, because we're offering another educational
Pathway.
pathway, right? Like this is great. What we're trying to do is use this pathway to help fix the problem of the overcrowding at the high school by
The middle school.
cutting the 8th grade in half. So, I mean, that's what I mean by square peg and round hole thing, where it's like, it could potentially work, but it wasn't made for this purpose. But with, you know, having John's leadership and of course the school committee, Michelle and Don and the team from last year, this is what we thought would be a way of making everything better and fixing that problem. Everything, at least the high school and stuff, better.
How does it impact the high school?
Because this program goes through 9th,
No, how
8th,
does it
9th,
impact,
10th,
how does it
11th,
impact,
12th.
how would it impact the existing offerings at the high school, if at all?
It wouldn't impact the offerings at the high school. There would be an impact on personnel. You'd have more, well, right now I don't think we have any itinerant teachers, but you'd have a number of itinerant teachers.
How does it impact the budget?
Well, I don't think it would cost significantly more to get it up and running. It does have more, does have some equipment costs that are associated with it. But once you have an innovation pathway, then you can compete for the same kinds of grants that vocational high schools get. So there are also funding opportunities that come along. There's actually a Chapter 70 benefit to. There's so much that we have to chew up in our hold harmless money, you probably wouldn't see it right away. But every student who's enrolled as a pathway student generates more Chapter 70 money than every student who's enrolled just as a regular student.
I think we did have it, I don't know if we had the discussion, I can't remember, but did we have a discussion about like piloting in 9th grade to see, you know, the pitfalls that exist in it, but also, just as far as funding goes, we just received a grant for the innovative pathways.
We received a grant to conduct the planning phase. This timeline here talks about what the phases are. So as a recipient of that grant, we have an obligation to submit what's known as the Part A application. That is due in October, which is quite challenging considering other things that are going to be happening in the district, because even though the grant was approved, the commissioner hasn't signed it yet, so we don't have the money yet. We do have to get it out the door by the end of October though. Then what happens is DESE reviews your Part A application. If they think that it is good enough, then you're invited to do what's known as a Part B application, which is sort of a more fulsome version of it. That is due to the department by February, and then in March or April, the Department of Ed notifies schools if their pathway's been approved.
And if it was approved at that time frame, then we would be able to start it in September, correct?
Correct.
And then that would be in time for what the plan is, that, okay, applicants who would want to be 8th graders who want to be a part of this program would go to the high school, and those who do not want to be part of the program would be.
And is the grant integral to the ability to do this?
The planning grant,
Well, we're talking about the grant, but you're not gonna know the results of the grant till you're gonna have to make a decision by then on whether or not you're gonna do this or not, right?
no, the grant is to be spent between now and October.
Okay.
It's to get
So the
the
grant is just to
application
plan,
ready.
is to just do the planning.
Correct.
There's no
Year
fund,
long
there's no
planning
funding for
process.
the innovative pathway, so to speak, other than some chapter 70 money that you suggested.
Well, let me clarify that. There are, and I want to clarify something else too. There is funding for all pathways for the first 2 years. There's a sort of guaranteed grant that if you get the designation, you're locked into that grant to help you get launched. There is another part of the fiscal impact on the high school which we need to talk about. There was a report done by the business office looking at the impacts on having more students at the high school would mean we'd be able to accept fewer choice students. Right now, we've got about $500,000 in choice funds, so as the high school gets filled, that number would reduce and reduce. And so I think we had predicted 4 or 5 years out, there would be a negative impact to the budget due to the loss of choice funding.
So one of the other points that has come up through our conversations is that this is more flexible than CTEC for students. And also the choices, the offerings, the pathways that we would be offering for students would be reflective of their choices and their interests. So when John and his team speaks to, the middle school asking, what are students interested in? And we always talk about, we have these, CTEC is, we're part of the collaborative, but we're sending the students out. But this is having programming in our district, in our schools, where we're not paying for transportation or anything like that.
And I should say, just to clarify, that report was based on bringing the entire 8th grade up, so that was 200 students. If it was a smaller group, there'd be less of an impact on choice. So we have not done that study, but we probably should.
I heard about this innovative, I think we talked about it
Yeah.
shortly after that event at Minichog, and I thought it was a fabulous idea. I thought it was, I just, those kind of things are interesting. I think people might want to take hold of some of those things. I do worry about how it impacts the budget, because every year, I don't think we have sufficient funding to improve our district. I just think that's been the reality of it for a number of years. And we continue to make cuts every year. And, I've seen it go on for 10 years plus somehow we have to stop that trend, and I don't want to, if this takes away from the core educational background, then I'm not sure if that's a good choice. And I'm not saying it does.
Oh, I see
I'm
what
just,
you're saying.
I don't want it to impact more AP classes or more
By
other
doing
offerings.
this, you're afraid we're gonna have to cut something else
Something
to
else.
make this to happen. But for example, when last year we all voted on to increase the offerings for, my brain is skipping here, the vocational, thank you, the vocational offering. That is something that does expand on what we have, but the fear was, is it gonna, be parasitical to our regular school programming? And we didn't find that at all as being an issue. And I think that's what here is, what you said there, but what you left out was, there are grants that will pay for this. Right?
I don't know
Yeah,
that.
right, yeah. And I think that's the thing, when you see the grants that come in to pay for this, I think that's the balance, so that it will protect the I don't want to call it basic education or the fundamental education, right?
Yeah,
It
I
will
know
not
what that
affect
is,
that
yeah.
because we have other funds that will come in here from the state that will pay for this innovations. And again, it's, as a school committee member, how often, even when you were on the school committee, how often did you get to expand on educational offerings to our students? I mean, this is like a most joyous thing, and we did one this year with the vocational in the 9th grade, and then hopefully innovation pathways in the future. I mean, it's a real wonderful thing for both towns and for our district, I believe, highly.
Student preparedness,
Yeah.
increased
I
opportunity.
think it's great as long as it
Yeah.
doesn't negatively impact other
Right.
offerings.
Mhm.
Because if you look at the trend over, and I say 10 years, maybe it's been 15 years, but when I was on the school committee a long time ago, we used to offer Mandarin as a language.
Yeah.
Think how far we've come since then. You know, I mean, we no longer calculus-based physics as an offering. I mean, those are really core subjects. Mandarin's not, but you know what I'm getting at. And I don't wanna see us to add, but to really subtract somewhere else is not really where I'm trying to accomplish.
And that's what we're trying to do with the entire, like, planning committee, so we're not trying to, we're trying
Yeah.
to continue to do what we need to do, you know, take care of our needs, you know, but also making sure that we're not.
But the concept of offering a pathway, I think it's interesting. I mean, I think there's value in that, and I don't wanna be a Debbie Downer on that. I just think you just have to be very careful on how this works out.
With the grants and the increase in
I just
potential
hate playing,
increase in
I
chapter
hate playing on
70.
grants, cause we all know what happens to grants.
Right, no, but also there's a potential increase in chapter 70 money for those students, right?
I think what might help you is when you see what our Part A and Part B application looks like that comes in, because then we're laying out exactly what the courses are. You'll see that a lot of them are courses that are currently offered, so it's, in a way, sort of protecting those courses.
So when do we look at the regional agreement? And where's that lying? I mean, obviously, the earliest we can do it now is next May.
And I think that should be our goal, is to, so that means we would need to get something to the school committee January, February, right? You know, to get them to approve it, get the word out. Or Dawn, do you think it should be earlier, or?
January, February.
I-
Change occurs for two reasons. You've learned enough to want to do it, or there's a crisis and you have to do it. So,
Which one are we at?
which one are we at? I think you're describing a crisis.
I think we need to make a change at some level. I'm not sure if I am worried about going too far with too many changes, because I think that it's you're gonna get a rejection if you do that.
Well, one of the major changes would be,
Well, if you try to regionalize from K to, if you try to regionalize from K to 12, that's a major change versus going from 7 to 12.
I think we were talking 6 to 12.
6 to
6,
12.
okay, so,
I think that was where most of, I mean, I would be happy with the K through 12, and I'm happy with the 6 through 12. I mean, but I think eventually,
I think you
we
could
need to get
sell
to a
6
K
to
through
12.
12.
I think you could. I think selling K to 12 is hard. And that's kind of where I was going earlier without being so descriptive.
But I also like the idea of having that conversation, so people comparatively can say, okay, this is why 6 through 12 is better than the K through 12 in their mind, and it gives more support for the K through 12. You see what I'm saying?
but I think you gotta be, if we're at a crisis, I think you have to say to people, we're at a crisis. We gotta figure this out, because guess what? The whole system's on a slippery slope down.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know.
And if the
Yeah,
four of
I
us,
think it's fair.
yeah, if the four of us here, you know, Wilbraham Select Board, Hamden Select Board, Hamden School Committee member, Wilbraham School Committee member, if the four of us can come to say, yes, we are behind this and strongly, I think that helps. And I think that's why this committee exists.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time I got beat up at a town meeting.
Nor the last.
What other
My
things
wife
in your,
just tells me, don't be mean.
what other things in your opinion is too much? So you're talking about,
I haven't looked at it that
Oh, okay.
closely, so I'd have to,
okay,
but I
You are a
do-
voting member, you're like, you get 25%,
No, I understand.
you know.
But I do think the notion of keeping it simple,
Mhm.
attacking the issues, and this is how we're gonna solve the issues, is really important. Don't put your wish list in there.
right, so I
Yeah.
think that based on what our work last year, I think that's what we were doing. We were focused
Yeah.
on the issues. We said, these are the things, this is why we're looking at this, aside from the fact that it was part of the strategic plan, but we're looking at overcrowding, you know, the overcrowding, reducing transitions was something that was important. You know, and making sure that we're not compromising the education of students.
I'm not sure that, I don't think this is the role of this committee. I really think we need to look at the funding mechanism.
That was also in there.
That's part of
I think
the,
that's absolutely, so. And I think the notion of just making it a 3-year average doesn't fundamentally solve the problem.
So, okay, accept,
I
if
don't
I
know, I
accept
don't know
that,
what the
that's
options are,
fine.
I don't know what the
But
options
then
are.
what's the next line? But this is, so
Well,
how do we,
I think that's where,
yeah.
you know, I mean, for years, we've talked about putting a group of finance people and budget sub people together in a room to kind of work some of that out, and I know at one point there was some talk about it, and it never really materialized. I think some work needs to be done there.
Why don't we do that with this committee? Why don't we have some finance people come in, talk about it? We have Aaron, we have other people that we can just get in the room and say, all right, Nick, what looks good? What would you like? You know, and just have everyone throw everything out on the table, no matter how outrageous it is or not, but you have a brainstorming session and you see what comes out of it.
I mean, there must be other funding mechanisms.
We did look into it, we did
Yeah,
talk to
yeah,
other
well, I wasn't
districts.
party to any of that, so I don't know
Yeah,
what,
I think we
yeah.
did that on a school committee level, I know
Yeah.
that was, we had a conversation.
I made
we
so
didn't
many
hear
calls.
about-
We
We
did
did
as part of
calls.
this as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah,
We
And-
asked,
Yeah, Christine,
right, we asked the Office of Regional Governance to give us all the, different versions of an alternate plan, because we wanted to know, what were the options, what are other people doing? Basically, it was different versions of rolling average.
Right.
3-year rolling average, 5 rolling average, whatever.
Mhm.
And remember, the rule is you have to still keep the statutory method in, and if either town disagrees, you default to the
Default to
statutory.
statutory,
and if the methodology fails, the budget fails.
right.
So that was, it was a caution, I mean, I believe
I
she
just
said
don't
it
think
was a
that
caution.
fundamentally, I mean, it helps the dramatic change in any given year, but I don't think that fundamentally changes it, and that's kind of where I'm stuck at, so I don't know.
I think we really, like I said, let's do it as our next meeting, let's have a bunch of people here, let's really talk it out, like, what does that mean, that it doesn't fundamentally fix it? Let's dive into what that means. And then, okay, what other options do we see? I mean, I've looked at it from so many different angles, but I think it comes down to that thing where we're not asking the right question, you know? We're asked these questions and we're not getting the answers, so let's go back and let's refine the question. Like, if you ask the right question, then you can get the right answer, and I don't think we've really narrowed down what the question actually is or should be, so that we can find a solution to it. We know what is being done.
I mean, the
But-
fundamental problem I have, and I'm speaking for myself, when we do it based on enrollment, that assumes there's no fixed costs. Right? It assumes there's no fixed costs. That's fundamentally flawed.
I'm not sure why would you say that it assumes there's no fixed costs,
Because enrollment is a variable
right?
Right.
and there's no funding mechanism that's associated to anything fixed.
But let's say electricity, right? So
Yeah?
the assumption is that right now, 20% of those photons are falling on kids from Hamden, so that's why they're responsible for 20% of the budget, right?
Yeah.
That's-
Well,
That's kind of how
Do-
those.
do you-
electricity's more fixed, or more variable, I would think, because it's based off, well, perhaps not. But I'm thinking like, I'm thinking fixed costs like
The building.
the opening of a building, there's fixed costs associated with that. You gotta have a principal, you gotta have a myriad of staff in there, you gotta have food service, you have to have janitorial service.
Right.
Those are the fixed costs, largely. And it doesn't account for that in any level, and that's where I struggle.
Wait, so I'm spitballing here, right? So are you talking like, we have 2 levels, all right? The first level is there's a fixed cost because of the buildings or the fixed costs in each town. You have these schools, so this is your fixed cost, we have these schools, these are our fixed costs. And then beyond that would be another level of, now let's add enrollment on top of that. Is that something?
I'm not
that you're-
suggesting anything, because I don't have
No,
enough
no, I'm
knowledge
just
to do.
spitballing.
But I'm just saying,
Does
when
that
when the
sound-
funding formula is based entirely on variable costs,
Right.
it doesn't accurately represent
Right.
what the cost of, the true distribution of
Yeah.
costs should be.
I don't want this, I don't think anyone wants this, but if Hamden goes down to 5% of their, the students in the district, but they have a building there that costs whatever, I understand.
Yeah,
But I don't know is there a way, or, again, we're just spitballing, we're trying to ask the right question. Is that something that might be the solution to the question of like, we need to address fixed costs and the variable costs in whatever formula that we come up with.
And I don't know if anything like that exists.
I know,
You know,
it doesn't
I
mean we
don't
can't
know,
do
yeah.
it.
I don't know that.
Legally,
I
if we
don't
can
know.
do it, we can do it, but I'm sure, I
If
mean,
you
our
make it too
stories are pretty
complex,
great.
it'll blow everybody's head off. And
Yeah, of course,
Yeah.
of course, yeah.
And-
Don, does this sound like anything you've heard of before or anything, where you do two different?
Yeah, there's the variable, there's the alternative thing you haven't heard of, but there's different funding mechanisms and determining percentages based on, but, you know, our problem is demographics.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
I understand.
the elderly population is increasing in our town, the student population is not. People are living longer, so they're not abandoning their houses to sell to younger families. And then we have the solar farms, which are very nice, they pay their taxes, but they don't bring any people in, because they're paying their money. And now we have a Great Horse that wants to create another, they wants to move their R4 and R6, 292 acres to another golf course, which is nice.
What's R4 and R6?
Residential,
Oh.
houses can be built there, which would be nice, because it would bring people in, you know,
Right.
kids, hopefully, and, you know, increase the percentage. But golf course is nice too, because it pays taxes and it doesn't, you know,
Doesn't cost much.
it doesn't cost much for us.
Mhm.
So.
And I think what I'm inherently asking, Don, by revisiting this funding formula, is for us to share the cost differently. And what I'm fundamentally asking is for you guys to prepare a bigger burden than that.
Yeah.
And so we're somewhat competing interests there, and so we have to be careful how they all gets framed, but
I think you have to approach it with people as, seriously, we're in a crisis situation here.
Right.
We can no longer continue to fund things the way we are. We can no longer have a middle school that's overcrowded. You know, we need to do something about that. And the way we need to do it is everyone's gotta suck it up a couple, you know, pay a little more.
Well, the other thing that I
You
can,
know, we ask people to say, look, you need to pay $6 million for a new senior center. You know, and they do. And you see what happened in East Long Meadow. You know, they're voted to pay, what, $15,000 or $2,000 extra a year for their high school, because,
it's $170 million high school.
yeah, because they were in a crisis. And they said, this is what we need to do, and they solved it. So maybe we need to just do that, you know, say we're in a crisis. I don't know.
but then also, and this is something I've been squawking about since I came on the committee, is we're basing our view of education about how we've always done it, right? Then COVID hit, and we learned, you know, remote learning, the benefits and I don't know, the detractions,
Deficits.
yeah, right, from it. And I think what we need to do is we also need to say, all right, what will education look like in our district in 5 years and in 10 years? And then rather than just saying, all right, whatever DESE says, we'll surf that wave, why don't we lead it? Why don't we say, hey, you know what, this is our plan for education. You know, maybe we don't utilize the buildings so much, maybe we do a certain percentage online and then have other, you know, there is a combination of that. It's what we're gonna have to go to, because it's just becoming so costly to do it the way we're doing it, and yet the funds from the state are not really matching what we're trying to do. And then they throw the burden on the towns, which I gotta say, we're very lucky, because Hamden and Wilbraham have stepped up and, you know, each year have supported that, but at the same time, it's an unfair burden to put on the state. And then again, special education costs and such like that, and transportation, and you just keep on going on there, and it just comes down to, we need to figure out a different way of educating and hopefully make it so we educate better. You know, that's ideal. And John, that's why we hired you and, you know, brought you in here to lead us into the future.
So the goal, so
By the way,
With that said,
by the way,
with that said,
With that said, you know what happened when COVID didn't work? We can't
Yeah.
do that.
right, yeah.
Right.
But if COVID happened again or something like that, is there a way we could do it so it works? Is there a way we could make it work? How would we make it work? I think we really need to get a group together to say,
I think
where are
you're
we
right.
in 10 years?
I think you're right, you're asking the financial people to come in,
Yeah,
and just laying it out, see what they think about it.
first step, yeah.
First step, listen to.
Is that okay with you, Michelle?
Yeah,
Mark,
we can
yeah.
do that for our next meeting, maybe, if schedules align with.
Is the goal of this committee to revamp everything and start over and look at what options are available to us? Or is that pretty much already tracked?
Not quite like you said, but it's
I
to.
think I gave two options,
Right.
not like only the one.
No.
I'm just trying to understand what the goal is here, and where are we trying to go?
The goal is to make recommendations for the regional agreement. Changes that will benefit the district in the long term and in the short term, right? So we have to have long-term thinking and we have short-term thinking. And I think what happens is, and Wilbraham's a good example of this, you know, we built a wonderful fire station, and instead of just adding, you know, doing another police station together and have a complex, we had to build two of them. You know, you really have to think that long-term. And I think what I would challenge this committee is to yes, we have the short-term. We have too many kids at the middle school, we have too many kids at Stony Hill, we have too many kids at Mile Tree. But let's also figure, like, what changes can we make now to help the problems in 10 years, and 15 years, and 20 years, to really help steer the district to success? Because I want us to be the best school district in the world. I mean, the best ever. I mean, or we can just be, you know, in the middle, in the flow in Massachusetts. I mean, I really think that we have great resources in this town. We have two very strong towns supporting it. Our students are amazing, our teachers are amazing. Like, let's lead.
So the goal of this committee is to restructure the regional agreement that would allow the school committee to make the appropriate changes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's where I was going, that's what I was trying to understand.
I could have just said that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all, I'm trying to understand it, yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah. Would you agree with that, right, Michelle?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
and we did start from zero and
Right.
look at, you know, what are we looking at?
Well, that's what I was
Looking at all
wondering,
the options.
yeah.
No, it
Looking at
wasn't
the
zero. How many
schools.
options did we start with?
Right.
Right,
More than
136.
yeah, 136.
136
So
options.
we
But we're not gonna
wrote
get
down-
involved in all that.
No,
Okay.
we've already
No,
done that.
we don't
We
have
looked
to go
at-
back.
we
If
looked
you
at-
want, I can go over.
No, I don't
It
want
was,
to.
it was building
Maybe so.
utilization,
No.
what our needs are, and just looking at everything, you know, all of the pieces on the table,
Yeah,
and just kind of, you know, so we had all of the information, we did our due diligence, and then going from there and looking at what some viable options are,
this is chess, not checkers,
Okay.
yeah.
you know?
So I'm gonna make a suggestion, which is similar to a suggestion I made in the past for that next meeting. I think from my perspective, it might be advisable to have someone from DESI there to sit, the guardrails are, so that, you
Excellent.
know, you don't start going down a long way of building an elaborate formula that they're gonna say, nah, can't do that,
Perfect.
you know?
Let's have them be part of that conversation, because they're our overlords, so to speak, right?
And if there's examples out there of other wild cards, let's look at them. I mean,
We
let's
have.
look at what options are out, okay, I haven't, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, if there's wild cards out there, let's look at them, see what, maybe something can fit. I mean, I don't wanna recreate the wheel,
Neither do we.
yeah.
I'll start asking in different states, maybe, I know some different school committee members from different states, and I'll see if I can see if there's anything that they have that's different, other than what we've been looking at.
And one of the things is we have to work within the confines of DESI. We don't
Right.
have a choice, so, you know, as innovative and creative as we wanna get, we just have to make sure that it will be ultimately approved.
Yeah, because if they don't approve it, it doesn't happen. And that would be horrible for us to get something where the towns say yes, and then DESI says no.
Mhm.
But I don't think, before we put it in front of the towns, I think DESI's already given us the thumbs up or the thumbs down.
And the way that, so far, that we've been working with a regional agreement is, you know, we've been in close contact with DESI, our attorney, so these changes, it's not that we've made these changes and we've been getting approval and guidance along the way. So these changes have been looked at by DESI and recommended, and it has been looked at by our attorney as well.
But then again, any formula that we come up with is the alternative, not the standard.
So with that, so we'll work on
Mhm.
arranging with Desi.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, Tuesdays at 5:30 work for the committee?
Sure.
Okay. So I guess we'll have to work around Desi, hopefully they could fit into our schedules.
Yep. And actually, maybe Kuchar, get him here as well, Glenn.
Mm.
I think he could be an asset, at least help with that conversation. Glenn Kuchar, MASC, MASs.
I certainly have no objection to Glenn, but I'm learning about Mars since,
Oh, yes,
Since
of course,
they do.
oh, yeah,
That
yeah,
would
because
be
they did
more-
all of our,
More appropriate.
Mhm.
yeah. Sure.
It's
a cool name, I know.
If we call it a
Very
workshop even, have them come here to workshop to discuss, like, let's spitball, get people from the different towns come in, we need ideas, we need whatever. Let's find the right questions so we can find the right answer.
Yes. Okay. So with that,
Did you wanna like, eventually, like, go over and approve or not approve? Why don't, if you get a chance, take a look at this more in depth, and then we can go, and if there's anything that you're against in here, or, but the changes were, if I remember correctly, most of them, except for maybe one or two, were pretty,
pretty
I
straightforward.
mean, I'll be honest with you, a lot of this stuff is not gonna be terribly, I mean, I'm gonna look at it from a town's perspective.
Yeah.
And it's really around the, how are we gonna regionalize and the funding of that. And
right?
Right.
that's the kind of stuff I would be honed in on. I mean, a lot of this stuff is not, I don't think,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the school committee's job, not the town's job.
Yeah. So right now, we're just gonna break down and speak to the assessment portion.
What are you guys doing with TWB? Is that, did you guys ever figure that out?
Mhm.
I know there was a recent discussion on that, but.
Yeah.
stay
Should
tuned
come for a meeting on
Thursday night.
Thursday.
On Thursday.
Oh, this upcoming
Stay
Thursday?
tuned.
Oh, okay,
Or watch
so
it
so you
live
haven't
on
decided it
video.
yet, you haven't decided it. I know you
No, we
talked
did.
to.
I
I
thought
know
we
you talked
made a
to-
motion and it was accepted to begin the
Enter negotiations.
enter negotiations with the town for the transfer
And we
potentially
made
at
a
the end of this year.
proposal, and then they made the classic mistake of giving it to the lawyer. So this would be another 6 months and $10,000 legal fee.
That won't pay 80% of, by the way.
Yeah, but you'll pay 80% of it. This isn't a hard,
81.
this isn't a hard thing,
81.
it's like remove Thornton Burns from the lease.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do.
Yeah, sounds like a one-liner to me,
Oh, and
right?
we're gonna keep the food pantry,
Uh-huh.
2 lines,
Oh.
but they gave it to the lawyer, so. Having a lawyer in the family, I know where this is headed.
Well, you've set the expectations, so.
She charges,
They're
she
getting-
charges $450 an hour. Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Okay, so, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We're adjourned at 6:24.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.